Hello, this is Socially Triggered, and this video is going to be on Rule Britannia. It's a song that is sort of like one of these songs that they sing at the proms in England, and it's a song that kind of symbolizes British history. And there's a debate about this song that's happening right now, whether or not they should just get rid of it, just remove it from history almost. And I want to kind of address this historically, and I also want to address what people are thinking and why they're making this kind of decision about removing this song. And I'm going to kind of open it up so you guys can give me your feedback in the comments and give your 2 cents about whether or not Rule Britannia should be removed as a song played at proms, played on TV, so forth. So let's listen to a couple people who commented on this debate. Let's switch over here, kind of start it up here.
We should be looking to ban these songs.
Well, I don't think it's about banning the songs. It's about saying what songs are appropriate. And as you said, Britain never, ever, ever shall be slaves. That's a racist propaganda at a time where Britain was the leading slave trading nation in the world. And I'm sorry, the idea that we're having this conversation now, that's a disgrace. I remember my school 20 years ago took Rule Britannia off the hymn sheet because they realized it was totally inappropriate and offensive. So the only real problem here is that we're having this discussion now. This should have been done a long, long time ago.
So what are you asking for? If you're not asking it to be banned, so what are you saying should happen to Rule Britannia, Land of Hope and Glory?
No, ban is the wrong word. I mean, it's not censorship. It's just saying, look, some songs, particularly those two, which this is racist propaganda, which celebrates the British Empire, which killed tens of millions of people, many of which now, like myself and like yourself, actually, are descendants of those victims of colonialism. It's totally inappropriate to have these songs. It's not about banning and censorship. It's about saying, what songs do we want to represent the modern moment? And it's a big if, actually, we do want an anti-racist Britain, then songs like this don't need to be celebrated in the proms.
What do you...
So that's the opinion of Mr. Professor Andrews. Just not to disparage the guy too much, but generally he's pretty racist. He really hates England for some reason. But what are his points? Okay, so he says that the song is racist because it says, well, let's see what the song says. Hey, they always do this. They always say something, but they never actually quote the actual song. So let's actually look at the song. And then I'm going to give you the historical context after, but let's look at the actual song because that gives us at least some context, to see whether or not it's racist. And if it's racist, well, wait. Let's, see what if it is. Okay, let's look at this song. I'm going to click back over. Switch it out. Oops. So here's the song. I'm going to just click here. So, terrible with this mouse. Rule Britannia. Britannia rule the waves. Brits never, never shall be slaves. When Britannia first at heaven's command rose from the azure main, this is the charter of the land. The guardian angels sang this strand. The nations not so blest as thee must in their turn to tyrants fall, while thou shalt flourish great and free, the dread and envy of all. Still more majestic shall thou rise, more dreadful from each foreign stroke, as the loud blast that tears the skies serves to root thy native oak. Ye haughty tyrants never shall tame all their attempts to bend thee down, but will but arouse thou generous flame, but their woe and thy renown. To thee belongs the rural reign. Thy cities shall commerce shine. All thine shall be the subject main, and every shore it circles thine. The muses shall, with freedom found, shall this is a long song, shall to thy happy coasts repair, blest isle, with matchless beauty crowned, and might and manly hearts to guard the fair. Rule Britannia, Britannia rule the waves. Britons never, never shall be slaves. Now you're probably wondering, what the hell does this even mean? Like that's the big thing, right? You know, what does this actually mean? So you got to know the historical context. So I'm going to explain to you the historical context behind the song, because if you don't know the historical context, well, who knows what it means, right? Like it's a little bit weird, right? It's like, why is it talking about rule Britannia, rule the waves? Why waves? Okay, so let's think about that. Well, they're talking about the water. Britain is a island nation, and there's water all around it. So, and it has to rule those waves, but rule it over what? And that's where the history comes in. So for those who don't know, the African slave trade wasn't the only slave trade that ever happened. There was other slave trades. And one of the bigger slave trades was actually the Muslim slave trade. It was far bigger, way bigger. It's just like 10 times bigger. But within that, there was the Barbary slave trade, which is a bunch of pirates that lived on the northern part of Africa. So the northern west part of Africa had these Berber pirates, okay? And what these pirates would do is they would go up the coast of Europe, and anyone that lived along the coast, they would raid those towns and capture the people and make them into slaves. Then they would go all the way up, right up to England, and they would capture the British people that were living on the coast, and they would basically imprison them and make them into slaves. They'd rape the women, they would, castrate the men, and they would do pretty nasty things. That was the slave trade that they did. And this is sort of weird because like we always think of like the slave trade as being like whites doing something to blacks. Well, this is blacks doing something to whites. It was total opposite. Arabs, I should say. So it was very interesting that it's the opposite. And it was actually pretty large. Most people don't realize this, but the Berber slave trade was about 2 million people that were captured this way and became part of the slaves, slaves that, the Arab slave trade. So it was pretty extensive. And what happened was there was, a king that said, hey, no more. Let's stop this. Like we don't need to be, victims anymore. Let's build up our, navy and let's rule the waves. Let's prevent these pirates from coming and raiding our towns. And they basically, built up the British Navy, and they stopped the pirates from raiding the towns. They defended themselves. They said, hey, no more slaves. We're not going to be slaves anymore. So the song isn't talking about African slaves. It's not talking about anything like that. It's talking about how the British were being made into slaves. And this was a time when they were going to stop that from happening anymore. And it is a time where they were proud of that. They were proud of the fact that they had ended the evil practice of slavery and slavery of British people. So you'll see like they talk about not only that they are freeing British people from the yoke of slavery, but they see it as something that needs to be rooted out for everyone, and that this is a really anti-slavery anthem. Okay, this is like they're saying we want to stamp out slavery. Okay, so this is not a bad song in any way, and it's not racist. It's really just talking about British protecting themselves. There's no racism here, but they do say that they don't want. They do feel for the other people that are still not protected under this great navy that the British had established. That that they were still going to be made slaves, and that they would be under the tyrants' rule. So this is really a song that challenges that whole situation of the British being enslaved by the Barbary pirates, and it's really kind of a song where they basically are saying, hey, no more, and let's end slavery. So this is like a chant that you would sing, like, to say, we're not going to be slaves anymore, and we're against slavery, and it's an evil thing. And to me, that's the very song you want to hear, especially nowadays where we're so divided and we think that there's all this oppression going on. This is a song against oppression. So learn your context, people. As I said, the guy that was speaking on the BBC, he really didn't understand. He doesn't understand the context, even though he's a history major. He's a Black history major, but he doesn't understand his own British history. And if he understood that, he would realize that this song is actually a very good song, and it should probably be kept and celebrated and understood. One of the things that we have a tendency of doing is we demonize things. We destroy them without really understanding what we're destroying. And it's important for us to learn the history so that we don't make the same mistakes that led to slavery, the same mistakes that led to so many of the bad things that happened in our history. It's from not learning from those mistakes. So it's really important that we don't go down this road of, as he would say, banning things, but not banning. It's like the craziest thing. Like, let's just remove it, but we're not banning it. We're just removing it. It's like, what the hell? So it's just crazy. We have to get rid of that attitude. Instead of like, even if it was something bad, let's say the song was racist. It isn't, but let's say it was. Well, learn from it. Learn what is it, what makes it racist? What is, learn, and, what is it that has good characteristics? Like, let's look at it from all angles before just throwing it away. There's a lot of the things that we have to understand in the context of the time. And as I said, this song came from a very interesting time, a very different time than we live in now. And we have to understand that context. So this has been my 2 cents on it. Rule Britannia, rule the waves. Brits never, never shall be slaves. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.